Hello and welcome to May's Crochet. I am Rachel. It is time for our July movie wrap up. So if you have not been here or if you forgot from a month ago, every month I am trying to watch 16 movies. They could be brand new or rewatches, it does not matter. And I'm going to make one granny square for every movie that I watch. And at the end of the year, they're all going to go into a big blanket with each month looking a little like this. So I am ranking them. There are 3 colors for ranking. Yellow is a 1. It means I don't ever want to watch it again because it was horrible, but not necessarily. Maybe I just don't want to watch it again because I don't really feel the need to. It doesn't mean it was a bad movie. Usually it does, but not always. It just means I have no desire to watch this again. Pink is a 2, so it could go either way. I can watch again or not. It doesn't matter. Wasn't life-changing, but I did enjoy it on some level. And blue is a 3. It means I absolutely have to watch it again at some point. It won't be anytime soon because I'm not going to rewatch the same movie too many times this year. But at some point I would love to rewatch it again. So one of those colors surrounded by purple means it is a rewatch. So yes, in this case I did rewatch something I gave a 1, don't ever want to watch again to, but that happens, you know. I not 100% sure what this was. It's been 2 months at this point. This is June's blanket. So square. This is June's square. That's what I meant. Anyway, let's move on with July. So we are halfway through the year and I am going to try a new format for these videos. Up to this point, I have made the square on camera while talking about the movie, usually just the new, to me, movies I watch, and then rewatches I'd make off camera and just briefly talk about them. It was clunky. It was hard for me to think and work at the same time, think about what I wanted to say and work at the same time. It was just hard to edit. Sometimes I just felt like I just stopped talking just to finish the square. I didn't really love the way the first 6 months went, so I'm going to try something new. I'm going to go back to what I did last year when I was making my book blanket, and I've already made all the squares on camera, but I didn't talk the entire time, so then I went back and did a voiceover to tell you, hopefully, what are much clearer, more concise thoughts on each film, and to keep it a lot shorter as well. And of course, me making the squares, the footage is sped up. With all of that being said, let's get into it. The very first movie that I saw in July was Jurassic World Rebirth. This time, in Humans Never Learn, a small group of mercenaries heads to an abandoned island research facility to extract genetic material from some of the few remaining living dinosaurs for the medical benefit of mankind. Because that totally makes sense. Of course, things go very bad very quickly, and an innocent family out sailing the ocean gets caught up in all of it because we always have to have a kid in trouble in these movies for some reason. Is it good? No, of course not. It's dumb as hell, but it's dumb fun. And that's all I expect out of a Jurassic anything movie at this point. Not a damn thing made sense, but we're here for the big dinosaurs, not an actual plot. The best part has been the internet's rightful mocking of the newest dinosaur, the D-Rex. My favorite being, does the D stand for Derposaurus? I mean, seriously, look at that thing. But I'd watch it again willingly in a Jurassic marathon one of these days. So then for our family movie night, the next day, we decided to watch the Barbie movie. Brad still hadn't watched it, so the girls and I forced him into a chair, tied him down, and made him watch it. I'm kidding. He was totally fine with it. He loved it. I still love this just as much after multiple watches as when I saw it in the theater the first time. It's just fun and funny, but with a very grounding message. Even when things take a dark turn, and in the more tender moments sprinkled throughout, the over-the-top humor and performances are there to lighten the load. It's hard to believe a film based off a plastic doll could hit this hard, but it really did, and for me, it was an instant classic. Not to mention our Barbenheimer costume from last year will probably be one of my top 5 of all time. New Superman movie came out in July as well. I have not watched it, but I also realized I never watched the original Christopher Reeve 1978 movie, Superman, the movie. So I dived right in. Anyway. First, I have to say, I've never been the biggest Superman fan. I've only watched the newer ones with Henry Cavill and a few episodes of some of the older TV shows. But I knew everyone held Christopher Reeve in the highest regard as the ultimate Superman. And after seeing this, I definitely agree. Unfortunately, I just found the rest of the movie really boring. Maybe it's because I'm so used to the extreme action, effects, and tone of modern comic book films, or maybe I have superhero fatigue at this point, but I struggled through this, and I don't want to watch any of the sequels. But at least I've finally seen this one, right? So then I decided a little self-torture would be a great idea. I don't know, I'm sorry. And the curiosity got the better of me, and I watched this year's live-action Snow White movie. The odds were never going to be in this film's favor, for me personally, as I never even cared for the animated version. I respect what the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has done for feature-length animated films, but that doesn't mean I have to like the movie itself. And turning all of these animated films into live action over the last decade or so has always felt pointless. I've seen quite a few of them, but never wanted to revisit a single one, though last month's How to Train Your Dragon might be an exception. Most of them haven't been bad, just felt unnecessary. But this was truly awful. From the extra bland backstory of Snow White's parents, to the immediately forgettable new songs, to the painfully CGI enchanted forest and dwarves, I hated everything about this. But most of all was the laughable, horrible performance by Gal Gadot as the evil queen. There are not enough words, but there are plenty of accurate memes, so check those out. So things got better with The Black Phone from 2022. Not what I was expecting, but better. This recent horror film is set in Denver in the late 1970s, when a young boy is held prisoner by a serial killer, but begins talking to the killer's previous victims through an old, disconnected telephone in the basement he's being held, as the spirits try to help the boy escape before he meets their same ending. I like how the film twists the horror element of the gruesome supernatural parts to be helpful, while the real-life horror of being kidnapped has a quieter, more menacing feeling than just straight-up horror. The killer was very understated, very good performance by Ethan Hawke, who I'm not normally the biggest fan of, even if the masks were strange to behold. But it allowed for the boys, dead and alive, to be the real draw, which is something rarely seen in the horror genre, as it's normally the most outlandish killers that get the best screen time. So Sinners hit streaming. I was very excited about it. Brad and I had made plans to go see it on date night in the theater, and that fell through because it was like graduation weekend, and we decided we did not want to go out on graduation weekend. We don't hate ourselves that much. So finally got to sit down and watch it on streaming. In this Southern horror film, twin brothers Smoke and Stack return to their small Mississippi town to start a juke joint with the help of some old friends. But things take a dark turn when an old vampire is drawn to the transcendental music played by the twins' musically gifted cousin. I absolutely love when horror elements are shown in a new light. So vampires in a small southern town in the 1930s is a very different take that I knew I'd appreciate after seeing the trailer. And I really did enjoy the film overall, but unfortunately, a lot of my old blogging buddies that I'm still friends with on Facebook had hyped it up so much that I'm not sure it could have ever lived up to what they had described it to be. Which is upsetting, bit of a letdown, not gonna lie. It's not the film's fault, and I did really try to love it. But in the end, I didn't. I had a good time, and I'll certainly watch it again, but it wasn't quite what I was promised by some very trusted friends. And the end of the trailer, spoiling that one character being turned into a vampire, should be a crime. I think the second half of the film would have hit differently if we didn't already expect it. Just my opinion. It's still a very good film overall, though. And since I had watched The Black Phone on Peacock, which is a horror movie, they also decided to recommend me more horror movies, and I finally watched 2020's The Invisible Man. After an abused woman's ex is assumed to have died, she suspects he is still alive and watching her after developing technology to literally become invisible. The only thing about this movie I appreciated was that they didn't lean into the hysterical woman trope from the viewer's point of view. We knew very early on that the main character wasn't crazy, only that everyone else in the movie thought she was. That being said, the rest is just terrible. I can absolutely suspend disbelief in a film if the plot and characters are intriguing enough to not care about all the plot holes. Unfortunately, this wasn't that. Things were going okay until about halfway through and the restaurant scene happened. After that, I was just done, because tell me how not a single person in that busy place saw a floating knife. Then all the problems started shining like a beacon, and I couldn't even try to let it go anymore. Well, at least I finally got around to reading H.G. Wells' original book that's been on my TBR for forever, though the title is the only two things that they have in common, but I didn't really like the book that much either. And with all the excitement over Project Hail Mary, the new trailer coming out, I listened to the audiobook again because I love it that much. I hate that I have to wait till March to see this movie. However, I realized there is another Ryan Gosling man in space movie I never watched that I always meant to, 2018's First Man. The film focuses on Neil Armstrong's time in the space program and all the work and tragedy that went into getting a man on the moon. The absolute draw here is Ryan Gosling's quiet, humble performance. He really is mesmerizing as someone who seemingly never set out to become a historical figure, but did so with extreme grace and humility. The space scenes are beautiful, and the overall story about this time in the space program is really insightful, but this is a character-driven piece without any frills. Unfortunately, I don't think this was a space movie that was exciting enough for general audiences looking for more thrills. So if you're looking for a thrilling space mission film like Apollo 13, just watch Apollo 13, because First Man is more about the man than the mission. So I was deep in the bowels of Crochet Bingo the whole 4 weeks of July, where I played that little game, and I just needed something easy to watch, and I went for Red Eye, which had just hit Netflix again. I can't believe this film is already 20 years old, but in it, a woman is held captive on a red eye flight by a man threatening to kill her father back home unless she helps his terrorist organization assassinate the Secretary of Homeland Security by using her authority as the hotel manager where the target will be staying. It's not the most airtight plot to ever exist, I'll admit, but I rewatched it because it was 80 minutes of Cillian Murphy being menacingly hot. I regret nothing. But overall, this is a fun movie, though it does fall flat in the last act once the plane lands and our heroine tries to escape and warn the secretary and her father about the impending doom. The chase through Miami is very underwhelming, but thankfully it doesn't take up too much runtime. And I was still staying up late that night working on things. I think I watched these back to back, and I realized that Netflix had all the Mission Impossible movies on, plus they had that last one come out earlier this year. I don't think I've watched whichever one the one before Henry Cavill was, but I did decide to go back and watch the 1996 one again. Sometimes it's just good to get back to the roots of something. I know everybody likes to go crazy over 60-something-year-old Tom Cruise and whatever mild stunt he performs himself for each and every Mission Impossible movie these days. But for me, nothing beats the simplicity of that first film with him being suspended from the ceiling. It's just so iconic at this point. It might not be a thrilling, big action moment, but the level of suspense while watching that scene as they break into Langley is unmatched in any of the other Mission Impossible films, at least the ones I've seen. At some point, they all started running together in plot and stunt level, which is why this first one remains an absolute classic. And then I had heard a lot about Soderbergh's new movie Black Bag, which is streaming on Peacock. In this spy thriller, a counterintelligence officer at the National Cybersecurity Center must investigate 5 co-workers, including his wife, as potential leaks of a top-secret software program that will cause bad things, obviously. So this film was not bad, but once everything was out in the open, I just didn't find it that interesting. It felt like it was trying to be too smart for its own good, or for my own good, I'm not sure which. I did appreciate the relationship between Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. He's the counterintelligence officer and she's the wife he has to investigate, as they're a married couple who would do anything for the other one in such a high-stress work environment. But all the double crossings and reveals fell flat for me because I didn't find the other characters interesting enough to care. So this is mildly entertaining, but also it's just forgettable. So when Black Bag fell short for me, I decided to revisit Ocean's 11. Not a lot to say, but this is another classic for me. And yes, I've seen the original Rat Pack version and I do not care. But this is a good example of if you have an intriguing enough plot and a cast of characters with amazing chemistry, I might not care or even recognize massive plot holes. It was years before I realized that there was no way the team would have been able to get the bags of fake money into the vault, which was a very important part of their scheme. And now that I know that it's there, I really just don't care. The heist element is fun, but it's the chemistry between the team that sells it for me, especially Clooney, Pitt, and Damon. I really could watch this movie anytime. I never really cared for Ocean's 12 or 13, but I really enjoyed Ocean's 8, so I had to watch it again. I was skeptical of this sequel since 12 and 13 were both letdowns for me, but I ended up loving it, again for all the same reasons. The heist is fun, and the chemistry between the all-female cast is a delight to watch. And just like with 11, you can tell everyone involved is having fun. And sometimes that makes such a huge difference in the end. I just hope they decided this was good enough and won't let the franchise limp along with subpar sequels like The Boys did. And this next one is really out there, but sometimes I am too. Death of a Unicorn from earlier this year hit streaming on Max. And I'm like, well, this seems weird. In this dark fantasy, a father and daughter on their way to see his billionaire boss accidentally hit and kill a unicorn with their car, discovering the creature's blood and horn have magical healing powers. The greedy boss decides to use it for profit, but the remaining unicorns want their kin back and will kill whoever stands in their way, and usually in the most gruesome way possible. This was weird. Sometimes good weird and sometimes bad weird. Really, if it weren't for such an impressive cast, Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Téa Leoni, Richard E. Grant, and Will Poulter, I would have guessed this was a student film project, which can be fun, but I have no idea how these actors agreed to do this. It's one that I would rewatch just to try and figure out how I really feel about it, because I'm not sure. And honestly, it could go either way. And then I finished up the month with another rewatch. I don't know how many times I have watched these movies, but another rewatch of Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. So lastly, I wanted to work on some future projects and needed something that was easy to sit through while I worked. It amazes me that I will look at a new-to-me film's runtime and hesitate if it runs over 2 hours, but these 5.5 hours, I don't even blink at. It also really hit me during this rewatch that I will probably never be as excited for a superhero film as I was for these two ever again. I do take partial responsibility, and it's not just films that this happens with, as I know I don't have it in me to invest the same time and energy as I did to see these 22 films over 11 years, all culminating in this 2-part extravaganza. But some of it is superhero fatigue at this point and lack of quality, as I haven't come across a cast of characters that has my heart like these originals did. It's a hard truth, but I'm finally ready to accept it. And it's not just film. I don't want to watch TV shows that go on forever. I don't want to read book series that have 7 books at 600 plus pages each. Either life's too short or my attention span is. I'm not sure which one. And that's a complete wrap up of everything I watched in July. Not a bad month. Definitely rushed at times. I was far more focused on the Crochet Bingo series than anything. So some things I was just kind of squeezing in here and there, especially the rewatches. But not bad. So let me know what you thought of the new formatting. I definitely found it a lot easier to film because I could just film whenever I wanted instead of waiting. Before I would do the 4 at a time. And then, so I was like, okay, can I sit down and do 4 right now and talk and crochet at the same time? This was much easier to film and to edit, honestly. So I'm probably going to stick with it, to be honest. But, I'll still listen to feedback, maybe. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube things. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?